This lecture is lecture number 11 in 11th week, especially part B. In last lecture, we learned until here arrow function, and I skipped this one, and you can refer to these skipped chapters later. I will not ask in the online quiz test, even in the final exam. Thus, please focus on that selected lectures. Okay, today we'll try to complete these JavaScript tutorials until here. After this, in next lecture, we'll learn about these JavaScript forms, this section, and JavaScript objects, and JavaScript functions, and HTML DOM, and JavaScript browser BOM. Okay, that's it about JavaScript. Okay, here this one is the chapter we are supposed to start discussion. JavaScript debugging. Even for other programming language, there's some debugging tool, because the debugging is so important, because when we are programming some function to apply in real application, in that case always there may be some bugs. If we can solve those bugs as soon as possible, that is the speed of the research and development, especially for software development engineer. Okay, let's follow these contents. Errors can or errors will happen every time we write some new computer code. And the code debugging is like this. Programming code might contain syntax errors or other logical errors. Many of these errors are difficult to diagnose. Often when programming code contains errors, nothing will happen. There are no error messages, and we'll get no indications where to search for errors. Searching for and fixing errors in programming code is called code debugging. That is very important. And for this JavaScript debugger, that the debugging functionality is implemented in the browser, like Chrome browser, Internet Explorer, Safari, Firefox. Those browsers are containing the debugging features. Okay, let's follow this one. Debugging is not easy, but fortunately all modern browsers have a built-in JavaScript debugger. Built-in debuggers can be turned on and off, forcing errors to be reported to the user. With the debugger, we can also set breakpoints. That breakpoints means placing some point where code execution should be stopped. And we can examine variables while the code is executing on the way to complete the program. Normally, otherwise follow the steps at bottom of this page. We activate debugging in our browser with the F12 key. Please keep in mind this F12 key, this function key F12, and select console in the debugger menu. Then we can use that debugging features in our browser. In that case, we can use this console.log method. If our browser supports debugging, we can use this console.log to display the JavaScript values in the debugger window like this, console.log. here let's follow this one. A variable will contain 5, B is assigned with number 6, and if we are adding together, then C variable will contain 11, and this one is simply showing out on the screen. What is the value of C? That should be 11, and we can try here, but that output will be shown when we are enabling our browser for debugging. That means activating debugging. There are several ways, and depending upon that browser, that may be a little different, but usually F12. If you are pressing F12 function key, F12, then sometimes you should use the function button, and at the same time you should F12 button on the top usually. Then you can see this one. There are so many complicated things, but at this point you don't need to worry about that, and simply you can run this one. Then this one will show some output somewhere here, 11. And also here you can check the console functionality. You can see this result in this console. When I am clicking this function F12, then we can see this page, and this result is embedded somewhere here, because the others are also some messages, but at this moment you don't need to worry about that. And run again. Also this one is showing out the console log C, this one. Also there are some other tabs here for HTML tables, HTML elements. We can see here to look at those HTML elements here for this screen, for this web page. We can see HTML pages, and this console is mainly for using this console output. And you can check later. You can check this one, and simply look at this bottom, and you can assign it to different value, and you can see okay here, depending upon that, this is the statement you can put in. Later I will discuss about this, a little more in detail about this, and you can assign other value here. Then that is saved. There's this one means A equal 8, and C is not defined at this moment, and this one is looking for C, but that is not existing. This piece is not existing. Thus this one is showing some other result, but at this moment you don't need to worry about that, neglect that. And I can assign this. And simply if I am adding together the two variables, you can type like this, then you can see those added value. That is the result is shown here. This is console. Later we'll discuss a little more about this one, because these tabs may be used later, and this one is showing some source. We'll learn anyhow later, and this one is showing some elapsed time to access each contents, including those images, and later we'll discuss about it. At this moment, please focus on that console. And To come here to this debugging window, we can use the Control Shift and I button, three buttons together. Then we can come here like this. Or you can use the if you are using Chrome browser, on the right side you can see when you are clicking this one, then you can see more tools, and if you are clicking that more tools, you can see developer tools. Then that is showing Control plus Shift plus I. Those Control Shift I button together, then you can come here. And if you are clicking again Control Shift I, then it will come back to this normal page. But if you are clicking the Control Shift I again, then we can go to the debugging web page. Thus we can see this console output here. Okay, let's move to the next. Thus in this way, using this console.log, we can show out the output on the screen for debugging purpose. And we can see more about the console.log in this console reference. You can click this one and you can refer to that. Let's click this one. Like this. Console.log, hello world. Here. And if you are clicking function 12, F12, as we did already, then you can come here and you can see the result, hello world. And the others are also complicating, but at this moment don't worry about that. And we'll be back. And you can see some other explanation about the console or console.log example there. We'll be back here. Setting breakpoints. In the debugger window, we can set breakpoints in the JavaScript code. At each breakpoint, JavaScript will stop executing and let us examine JavaScript values. Later, with the Visual Studio Code, we'll look at these debugging breakpoints, a little more in detail about this. After examining values, we can resume the execution of code, typically with the play button. Also, this debugger keyword, if that is embedded somewhere in the middle of the code, then that execution will be stopped there, and we can do some debugging. Depending upon the browser's supportability about that debugging feature, if no debugging is available, the debugger statement has no effect in that case. Okay, you can refer to that, and I'll discuss a little more about that debugging with the other tool, for example, Visual Studio Code later, and Chrome browser later. We'll focus on that debugging later into that tools. Before that, let's try to complete these simple contents first. Major browsers debugging tools. Normally, we can activate debugging in our browser with F12. Please keep in mind with this one, function F12. That is mainly for the debugging, and we can see the console in the debug menu. For example, if we are using the Chrome browser, then open the browser, from the menu select more tools, and from tools choose the developer tool. We can finally select console. Then we can reach to the same web page that is showing the console window for debugging. If you are using Firefox, then like this, very similar to each other. if you are using Edge browser, depending upon the browser, but conceptually almost the same. When you are using Safari browser, then okay, this one is summarizing the previous contents. Let's look at this one. Debugging is the process of testing, finding, and reducing bugs, errors. Bugs means errors in computer programs. The first known computer bug was a real bug, an insect stuck in the electronics. At that time, instead of the integrated circuits, instead of transistor, the vacuum tube. Because of the light of the vacuum tube, some bugs they came and they made some error in terms of the electronic circuitry, and that was out of order, and that the bug was the cause for that error. That is called debugging, initial debugging. Okay, JavaScript style guide and coding conventions. This one is not the difficult one, very simple, and this one is very plain. Even in other programming language that may be applied to. Okay, always use the same coding conventions for our JavaScript projects. And this one is explained about JavaScript coding conventions. Coding conventions are style guidelines for programming. They typically cover naming and declaration rules for variables and functions, rules for the use of white space, indentation, and comments, programming practices and principles. Those are explained, and usually those are called style guidelines for programming, and that is called coding conventions. Coding conventions secure quality, improves code readability for further and future maintenance, and make the coding maintenance easier. And coding conventions can be documented rules for teams to follow, because many other engineers may be involved later, because the first engineer who developed that software, he or she may quit the company, and the other remaining engineers will follow. And the document is required, and to understand in easy way. Thus there is some rule, and that is about this. This page describes the general JavaScript code conventions used by w3schools.com. For example, variable names, camel case, that is recommended for identifier names, for variables, even for function names. All names start with a letter. And the spaces around operators. This one is explained about this. It doesn't matter for the execution, for running, because there's no error, but this one is simply for readability. Here, before this operator, after this operator, if possible, please put in this space. Also here, also after comma, like this. This is called coding conventions, spaces around operators. And code indentation, and try to put in some spaces for indentation of code blocks, like this. This is called indentation. You can put in 1 character space or 2 character space, it doesn't matter. Even though you are not putting that the space, it is running well. This is just for the readability. and in the unified way. Statement rules. General rules for simple statements. Always end the simple statement with a semicolon, like this. Even after these curly braces, after closing that, this semicolon is recommended to put in. General rules for complex statements. Put the opening bracket at the end of the first line. This one is explaining like this. Let's assume this one is complex or compound statements. Use one space before the opening bracket here, and put the closing bracket on the new line without leading spaces here. No leading space. And do not end the complex statement with a semicolon. In terms of the function example, like this. Object rules. General rules for object definitions. Place the opening bracket on the same line as the object name, like this. And use colon plus one space between each property and this value. And use quotes around the string values, like this, not around the numeric values. Do not add a comma after the last property value pair. This one is explained about that. You don't need to use that comma, and do not use. And place the closing bracket on a new line without reading spaces here, and always end an object definition with a semicolon here. This one is the definition of the object, and this is ending into this semicolon for these conditional statements, and this for loop, and this function. We don't have the semicolon here. Please keep in mind. Thus, do not end the complex statement with a semicolon. In this case, function, for loop, if statement, but in this case, object. In this case, please end an object definition with a semicolon. Short object can be written compressed in this compressed way in a single line, using spaces only between properties, like this. If the line length is below 80 characters, and for readability, avoid lines longer than 80 characters. If possible, try to be within 80 characters, below 80 characters. If that is over 80 characters, then you can divide into two lines, and where we should divide, in which point. Usually this operator will be the good point after an operator or a comma. Naming conventions. Always use the same naming conventions for all your code for unified way. In unified way. Variable and function names written as camel case. Global variables written in uppercase usually. Constants written in uppercase. Should we use hyphens, camel case, or underscore in variables? This one is the answer for that. Recommended answer. Hyphens in HTML and the CSS. We can use that hyphens. Like this, hyphens. And HTML attributes can start with data, like this. CSS uses hyphens in property names, like this, font size. Thus, in HTML and CSS, we can use that hyphen, but hyphens are not allowed in JavaScript names because that may be misunderstood as subtraction. Thus, please do not use that hyphen for JavaScript naming, JavaScript names. How about underscore? Many programmers prefer to use underscore. This one is underscore, especially in SQL databases. Underscores are often used in PHP documentation and Pascal, camel case. This camel case is used by JavaScript, jQuery, and other JavaScript library. Do not start names with $. It will put us in conflict with many JavaScript library names. jQuery, we are using this $, for the special purpose. Thus, in our JavaScript name, variable name, please do not use this $. Loading JavaScript in HTML. Use simple syntax for loading external scripts. The type attribute is not necessary. Here, the type that is not required here. Simply we can access and bring that JavaScript source here in this way with this source attribute. This is a file name and that URL for that. Accessing HTML elements. A consequence of using untidy HTML styles might result in JavaScript errors. These two JavaScript statements will produce different results here, and those are different because JavaScript, their variable name, those are function name, and those names, object name or ID name, those are case sensitive. File extensions. HTML files around our .html extensions we can use, and also we can use that, but this one is recommended. CSS files .css extension and JavaScript files .js extension. And this one is probably summarizing previous contents. Use lowercase file names. Most web servers are case sensitive about file names like this. This one cannot be accessed as this capital L, and those names are different JPEG file name. Other web browser like Microsoft IIS, Internet Information Service, are not case sensitive IIS web service. Those are not using case sensitivity. Those are case insensitive. Thus we can use this one or in this way. Those are same in this case. But if we are mixing together the uppercase and the lowercase, then we may have some problem. We should be always try to be very consistent in terms of the use of the variable names. If we move from a case insensitive to a case sensitive server, for example, case insensitive web server using the Microsoft, and to a Unix or Linux server to the case sensitive server, then even small errors can break our website. To avoid these problems, always try to use lowercase file names. Thus we need naming convention for general application in any server, to use in any server. Performance. Coding conventions are not used by computers. Most rules have little impact on the execution of programs. Thus, in terms of performance, it is not so important, but in terms of readability, it is important. Thus, for code in development, readability should be preferred. Larger production scripts should be minified. Okay, this is some recommendation called the JavaScript best practices. Avoid global variables and avoid new. Avoid double equal. That is comparison comparator. And avoid evaluation function method. And this one is explained a little more in detail for each. Avoid global variables. Minimize the use of global variables, data types, objects, and functions. And global, in that case, avoid the global variables. And the global variables and the functions can be overwritten by other scripts. That is dangerous. It may make some or generate some errors. Some strange errors can be happening. Use local variables instead and learn how to use. You can click this on if you need more information. Always declare local variables. All variables used in a function should be declared as local variables. Thus, with the variable keyword, we can declare, or let keyword. If we are not using that keywords, then they will become global variables. If we are using strict mode, and strict mode does not allow undeclared variables, and declaration on top if possible, it is a good coding practice to put all declaration at the top of each script or function. This will give cleaner code, provide a single place to look for local variables, make it easier to avoid unwanted or implied global variables, and this is reducing the possibility of unwanted declarations like this. Declare at the beginning and use later that variables like this. This one is also meaningful for loop variables. Declare at the beginning, and you can use later, like this. As we learned in the JavaScript hoisting, JavaScript moves all declarations to the top by default. Initialize variables. It is a good coding practice to initialize variables when we declare them, like this. Give cleaner code, and this will give cleaner code, and provide a single place to initialize variables and avoid undefined values, like this. Declare and initiate at the beginning if possible. Also, initializing variables provides an idea of the intended use. That means the intended data type. And never declare number strings or Boolean objects like this new. Please don't use this new keyword. Don't use new keyword like this. Instead, those are recommended. Left side, those are recommended. Right side, those are not recommended. Thus, please avoid that. Example, this one is recommended. pure automatic type conversions. The numbers can accidentally be converted to strings or not a number because JavaScript is loosely typed. A variable, that means a variable can contain different data types, and the variable can change its data type later, like this. This one was declared initially as string data type, but this one is number. The data type is number. Simply we can change. Thus, if we are checking that the variable x type of operator is showing that is number. If you are removing that, then previous one was string data type. When doing mathematical operations like this, JavaScript can convert numbers to strings. Those are calculated, and this character will be converted to pure number, and after calculation, okay, x, type of x. And if you are looking at this one, then you can see this one is plus sign. If we are using this one, then that is being used as concatenation operator. This one is the 5, 7 string. X is, if we are checking that data type, then that is string. Also later we can use this one. Let me try. Here 5 minus x, and that cannot be subtracted, and that x is not a number. Not a number is number data type. Also, okay, you can try after removing that comment character / here. This one is converted to pure number 5, and that will be calculated, and the result will be -2, and that will be the number data type. Okay, subtracting a string from a string does not generate an error, but returns not a number. This one cannot be subtracted, and the result will be not a number. Use, if possible, triple equal comparison. The double comparison operator always convert before comparison to matching types that will be converted automatically. If we are trying to compare thoroughly, then please try to use the triple equal operator for comparison. Like this. This one is in terms of the value that is checking, compare, true. This one is true. This one is also true. But if we are comparing thoroughly, that is triple equal operator, then it is checking even the data type. That is false. Also that is false. That is false, because they are different data type. Use parameter differs. If a function is called with the missing argument, the value of the missing argument is set to undefined. Sometimes undefined values can break our code. Thus, it is a good habit to assign default values to arguments. Here, let's use this real example. Here, x, y, and instead of two parameters here, two arguments, just one about x that is assigned to this one. Thus y is not undefined here. And your switches with defaults if possible, and we are using this switch statement at the last. We can use this default, but that is a recommendation. Even though there's no need for it, that is the recommendation to put in that default here. And we didn't learn about this evaluation function, and that is not recommended. Thus avoid to use this evaluation function. There may be some mistakes even though we are trying to program with the previous coding conventions. Depend on the expertise of each engineer. There may be some coding errors, and how to debug and how to eliminate those errors in advance. There's issue if we are understanding the common mistakes, then we can avoid that mistake. That means we can reduce that bugs in advance. Accidentally using the assignment operator, for example, this may generate some unintentional error or bug. If statement returns false because x is not equal to 10. Here x is assigned to this 0, x is 0, and they are compared. In terms of that value, then they are different, then the result will be false. In this case, this may be happening sometimes because of the this equal sign with mistake. This if statement returns true, maybe not as expected, we didn't expect at all. And because 10 is true, here x equals 0, 0, and here x is assigned, this assignment operator instead of the comparison. We are trying to compare, but due to mistake, we just put in a single equal character here, and that is assignment operator. Thus 10 is assigned to x. Then if we are checking the Boolean value, that is true. Our original purpose was, our intention was to compare that x, this value, and to 10. Thus that is wrong. Thus instead of that, we are trying to use this. If we are checking that Boolean x equal 10, then assignment. If we are comparing that x, whether that is equal or not, this is comparison operator if we are using double equal. Mistake, we missed this one, then it is showing wrong result. This if statement returns false because 0 is false. Here we are our original intention was to compare x value to 0, and it seems to be same. That should be we are checking whether they are same or not, but unfortunately we made some mistake. We missed this equal. Thus that was wrong, but we can fix it. If we are comparing that x0 and with this value 0 comparing, then they are same, thus that is true. But if we are missing because of our mistake, then the result will be different. And after closing some open tabs, let's try to continue. An assignment always returns the value of the assignment. Okay, expecting loose comparison. Here in regular comparison, data type does not matter. This if statement returns true. Okay, x10, variable x equal 10, those are compared. Even though they are different data types, the result will be same because we are checking only the data, not data type. This one is converting automatically, and 10, 10, those are same, thus the result will be same. But if we are checking even that the data type like this, then they will be different, thus the result will be false in that case. In strict comparison, data type doesn't matter, like our previous example. This if statement returns false in this case, as we did already. It is a common mistake to forget that switch statement uses strict comparison. Always this switch is checking thoroughly, that means strict comparison. Strict comparison. There's this one, x equal 10, here x10, and this is working well. This is the correct example. X, this one, and this, those are same data type, numeric, number. But the mistake is like this. Sometimes we may make this kind of mistake. Here, x equal 10, that is number data type. Here, but we are using this character, then they are different. Thus, this alert statement, that is not learning, because we cannot see the result here. There's instead this one we can use here. This one character string, also this one can be character string. Then they are both of them are same. Thus in that case we can get the result. This alert statement is showing out. Confusing addition and concatenation. Always, as this one is being repeated because we learned already about that plus operator. Sometimes it is being used for addition, and sometimes it is being used for concatenation operator, depending upon the situation. The situation is checking one operand, at least one operand, that is character or character string, then that operator is being used as concatenation operator, as we did run already. Okay, here. Okay, similarly here, the result will be 105. Here, 15. Misunderstanding floats. Okay. Sometimes the floating in all programming languages, including JavaScript, have difficulties with precise floating point values. This is very special case. This kind of situation, special case maybe generate this strange result. That is the limitation of that precise floating point values. To solve that, you can try this way. For reference, breaking a JavaScript string. JavaScript will allow us to break a statement into two lines, like this. But where we should break? If we are breaking in the middle of that string, then that may generate some error, like this. we cannot get any result here. Instead, we can use this backslash like this. Misplacing semicolon. Sometimes, because of the misplaced semicolon, the code block will execute regardless of the value of x, like this. That is mistake. After this, usually there should be no semicolon. If we are using this one is not normal case, and that is not intended at all. The result will be different. Breaking a return statement. Return statement also we should be careful about something about that. It is a default JavaScript behavior to close statement automatically at the end of a line. Okay, here if we are using the variable power 10 and return like that, and even though we are not using the semicolon, because of our mistake, it is interpreting where in this case 855 and power 10, that is variable will contain, and if they are multiplied together, then the result will be like this. That's correct. And that is like that. JavaScript will also allow us to break a statement into two lines. Because of this one will also return the same result. This var and the power, those are separated in different lines. Even though they are separated, they will generate same result. Fortunately, in this case. But what will happen if we break the return statement in two lines like this? Here we break and we are using two lines instead of single line, then unfortunately the result will be wrong. Here this one is not calculating, not doing that operation. This one is returning and this one is not executed. No result here. After this, there's undefined. And this one is explained about that in detail about. The function will return undefined because the JavaScript thought we meant in this way, because semicolon is attached right after that, and those are two different statements, even though they should be same in the same statement, in the same single line. And this one is explained about that. JavaScript will automatically close it here, and the next statement will not be executed. Accessing arrays with named indexes. Many programming languages support arrays with named indexes, array with name the index, but JavaScript does not support arrays with named indexes. Usually, arrays with named indexes are called associative arrays. In JavaScript, arrays use numbered indexes, always. Thus, this one is declared as an array. And here, the value is assigned as each element. And normally, this is normal situation, and we can get the length, how many elements here, and we can also get the element value. In this way, we can access. But in JavaScript, object use named indexes. Array, in the previous case, that was array, about array, thus that is using number index. But object is using named index. There's some error situation is happening here. If we use a named index when accessing an array, JavaScript will redefine the array to a standard object. After that automatic redefinition, array methods and properties will produce undefined or incorrect result. Like this. This one is the example for that. Here, that even though that is declared initially as an array, but here this one is implicitly or automatically declared or defined as an object. Thus the person that was array, that was changed to object, because that is named index. Named index. Thus this person changed the data type to object. And if we are checking that person length, nothing there, and also nothing there, we cannot get the proper and the correct answer for that, because this one is array and this one is object. Later it is being changed. Ending definitions with the comma. Trailing commas in object and array definitions are legal in ECMAScript 5. Like this. This one is explain about that comma. Trailing comma. This one is not learning, and Internet Explorer 8 will crash. And also JSON. JavaScript object notation that is described as in the last chapter. Even though we are not covering that, you can refer to that JSON later. Does not allow trailing commas. This one is not allowing. But this one should be like that. This one should be like that. Undefined is not a null. Okay, this one you can refer to this. Okay, when you are checking this one is the proper way. There's you should check whether that is undefined or not, and after that you should check whether that is not null or not. That is the proper and correct way to check. If you are doing in different way, then this is wrong. Okay, let's move to the next. JavaScript performance. That is about the speed. How to speed up our JavaScript code. If possible, try to reduce activity in loops. Loops are often used in programming. Thus here, this one is being executed again and again, repeated. Thus instead of here, that should be declared like this. Then once that is being assigned to this variable L, and that will be used like that, instead of interpreting that repeatedly. And if possible, try to reduce DOM access. DOM means document object model. About elements, HTML elements, those are made the DOM tree. Here. Reduce DOM size, and we learn anyhow this DOM later. Keep the number of elements in the HTML DOM small. Avoid unnecessary variables, and instead of this, those are called unnecessary variables. Instead of this, you can try. And this one is eliminating that full name variable. That will be better and more recommended. Delay JavaScript loading. The HTML specification defines that the browser should not download more than 2 components in parallel. avoid using ut2. We didn't learn about this, but this one is keyword, and please avoid using this with keyword. And this with keyword is not allowed in the strict mode. And even though this one is explained here, we didn't learn about this. This is just for recommendation. Okay. JavaScript reserved words. You can refer to this. And some reserved words are increased. The number of reserved words are increased because of the ECMAScript. Those are versioned up to 5, version number 6, like that. Those asterisk is newly included in this new ECMAScript 5 and 6. And also some reserved words are removed, and you can refer to them. Those are removed. And in this ECMAScript 5 and 6 does not have full support in all browsers. Do not use these orders as variables, even though those are removed. JavaScript object properties and methods. We should also avoid using the name of JavaScript built-in object, properties, and method. Those are built-in objects, properties, and methods. You can refer to them. JavaScript reserved words. You can refer to them. Other reserved words. Okay. This one is the skipped page actually, and you can refer to them. JavaScript versions. And this JavaScript was versioned up several times, and then maybe versioned up later again. The JavaScript was invented by this person in 1995, and it became an ECMA standard. That is the specification standard. 1997. ECMAScript is the official name of the language in terms of the specification. That is called JavaScript, ECMAScript. ES5, that is introduced the year of 2009, and ECMAScript 6, ES6, that is introduced in the year of 2015, that is called ES6. Like this. You can refer to this just for reference, as a reference. Here, JavaScript ECMAScript 6, that is the same name, like this, ECMAScript 2015. And depending upon the version, here, descriptions are here about the let and const variable and default relate to that variable, and those default parameter values, and array.find, those method, those are added, newly added, first time here. And that is also just for reference. Browser supportability for ECMAScript 5, that is introduced the year of 2009. ECMAScript 6, that is introduced with other name, ECMAScript 2015. Okay, you can refer to this just for reference. Okay, just for reference, you can refer to them. The others also just for reference, ECMAScript 5. A little more in detail about this. ECMAScript 5 is also known as ES5 and ECMAScript 2009. And you can see many array-related methods are introduced first time here in this year. That is called ECMAScript 5 features. And you can refer to others. And these chapters are skipped chapters. I am looking and showing briefly. This is ES6, ECMAScript 6. In other name, ECMAScript 2015. And here, let const and the arrow function and the find index, those are newly introduced in this ES6. Okay, I wrap up this lecture, and this is also the skipped one, and you can refer to this. JSON. JSON is a format for storing and transporting data. JSON is often used when data is sent from a server to a web page. What is JSON? Even though this one is a skipped chapter, let's look at this one in past mode. JSON stands for JavaScript Object Notation. And JSON is a lightweight data interchange format, and JSON is language independent. JSON is self-describing and easy to understand. And the JSON syntax is derived from JavaScript object notation syntax, but JSON format is text only. And code for reading and generating JSON data can be written in any programming language that is called the JSON format. This one. JSON format evaluates to JavaScript object. This is JSON data. This double quote and the colon and this double quote. Name and value pair. Okay, you can refer to others. This is JSON object, as we learned. Name, property name, and name value pair, like that. If we are using more value pair, then we can enumerate, and we can separate them with this comma. And we should include with these curly braces. Okay, you can refer to them. Those are skipped chapters and just for reference. I'll wrap up today's lecture here. Next chapter will be about new section and JavaScript forms. This one is containing several chapters. Let's look at briefly. Here, forms 2 chapters here. After that, we'll go to this JavaScript object later, but today we'll finish here.